Oh, hello everyone. Welcome to yet another webinar organized by the Kampala Devops Community. I'm Kyanda Steven. I'm a community leader at Kampala Devops Community, and I'm also a DevOps engineer working with Imata Uganda Limited. Yeah. So in yet another webinar, we are hosting a very famous cybersecurity expert. She's called Famious. I think you see the relation between famous and Famious is really close. Yeah, so we are hosting Famious Vakuma Orishaba. Yeah, so it's going to be more of an interactive discussion, a Q&A, where she'll be sharing insights on cybersecurity. And we hope we can tackle a number of threats, a number of cybersecurity topics or insights, such that by the end of this all, we work for the season and can be able to learn a thing or two, and as well as also be able to move forward. Yeah, so at this juncture, I'm going to request Famias to introduce herself, and probably we can get the session kickstarted.
All right. I hope you can hear me. Good morning. I'm very honored to be here and to be invited to speak to you guys. And you guys are here in time. It's amazing when Ugandans keep time. My name is Famious Orishaba, like you have said. I am a Ugandan. I live in Kampala. I enjoy a good cup of coffee. I love to travel, and I really love family. I love God. I am a believer, and ministry. I love meeting people and making new friends, and really sharing life. What I do is application security, but majorly I am a fan of cybersecurity, creating awareness, empowering people, talking about inclusivity, gender-based violence or mental health, things that affect us everywhere, but most times related to technology. I'm always open to sharing my stories and to empowering other people to follow their dreams. Majorly, that's my goal, to show people, other people, the possibilities and the opportunities that are there. Yeah, but majorly, that's it about me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that insightful introduction. Yeah, probably to put a face to the name, as you can see the poster. Yeah, but as I've shared, we're going to have more of a Q&A session where Femias is going to share a couple of insights on different topics that we were able to curate, and at least those insights will guide us to be able to do better when we're approaching cybersecurity. Yeah. So I think my first question for Femias is, what inspired you to take on the cybersecurity journey? And cybersecurity in this country has limited talent. I would say, at least if you do say on LinkedIn a search for cybersecurity experts in Uganda, the number is really small compared, say, to abroad. So could you share with us your inspiration on why you took on this journey? What made you go for it, you know?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Majorly, I was pulled to the field. I was introduced to the field by a certain professor in university when I was pursuing a Cisco certification. She told me about cybersecurity, but at that time, it didn't make any sense. I was just like, me, I want to be a telecom engineer. I'm going to be, doing masts and broadband. I don't want these things. What are you talking about? But she made me do the very first training on Cisco NetAcad. They have that option to learn cybersecurity. I think I just did it to get her off my back. I did the exam and I passed it. It was interesting, but I learned the fundamentals from there. So when I left university after doing my telecom degree, I started looking for work and work wasn't coming through. So I went back to the basics and thought, what else did I have interest in, and cybersecurity was the next best thing. So at that time, for me, it was really curiosity, keeping me busy as I wait for a job to come through. But in truth, I fell in love with it. It was very challenging, which also kept me coming back. So the challenge it posed me made me want to know more about it. Then whenever I would look, like you said, I'd look for people who are doing it. They were not there. So I kept saying, what if I actually continue on this thing? I could be among the first people. I could be among the first
Yeah.
people to be doing it. And so the idea to take that road that is not very much treaded gave me that adrenaline to keep going. And I think when you are a curious person, you always look out for things that challenge you. So that challenge it posed, and the fact that there were very few people, it is an untreaded road. So you are literally having a white canvas. You know, there's most fields you find there are people who have been doing this for 50 years, 70 years. But in this field, we have people who have been around. The word cybersecurity was not yet there, but they were doing these things. So now that it's becoming more known, they are also realizing, oh, what I've been doing is cybersecurity. So I met some of them through the networks, but mostly it was the challenge it posed, the idea that it's also possible to start something. And every time I would see people, they would be abroad, I would reach out to people, and I kept in touch with my professor, and she kept encouraging me. So that's why.
Wow. I think it's a common thing in the tech space where in most cases you find yourself doing something and careers don't open up yet, but it gives you
Yeah.
room, say, to explore a certain field out there. And
Mm.
we have so many fields coming up, cybersecurity, DevSecOps. There's so many. So I think to our listeners on call, this is I think a key learning probably we could learn from. Say give ourselves chance to get to explore anything out there. You never know, this could be the big game changer
Yeah.
because as we go ahead, you see how what famous is a good example for that inspiration. Yeah, so I think now coming back to Uganda, I would like to share my screen for a very interesting. Every time, say one is accessing Twitter and they see something like this, right?
Mhm.
What's up with phone hackers? People getting hacked on phones, banks losing money, startups
Yeah.
losing cash because with growth attracts fraud. So, in your
Mm.
opinion, as per Uganda, what are the top three cybersecurity threats that startups and individuals or engineers should be more concerned about in the current landscape?
Yeah. This is not like in any order of priority, but I think we are having a lot of phishing attacks. Phishing, the general social engineering is the biggest.
Yeah,
It's the biggest challenge we're facing, be it cybersecurity or fraud. It's the entry that in Uganda very many people are using or we are suffering from. So when I say phishing, I want to believe some people know what it means, but social engineering is a technique where people use your emotions to bait you into sharing very important information, and they can use different techniques. They can use a phishing message or an email, which will look very, trustworthy, or something that looks familiar, like from your bank or from a delivery channel you usually use, or social engineering includes someone learning your patterns. Sometimes you can fall prey of a net fish whereby your contact was in a pool, and that brings me to the next issue, which is data breaches. That could be the second one that is also fueling phishing attacks. So you find that if your email is in a pool, you will receive a phishing email from an unsuspecting attacker. So you could receive a phishing email, an SMS, or even a phone call. I think lately people receive calls from these people who are saying, I'm from Airtel, you have won this and
yeah,
this. And you receive messages saying you have been selected among this many people, or you have won an iPhone 12, things you have not even been part of. Or you can receive an email saying, send me money urgently, or send that money to this number instead, something like that. So that may not be necessarily cyber, but it is a technique that happens in cybersecurity as well. So phishing emails, phishing messages, voice calls, all those are big attacks that we're facing. Data breaches whereby information is your company's information or your information is found in a certain pool that can be used to tailor cyber attacks. So when you go to the dark web, people are buying this information because we say information is the new gold. And so usernames, passwords, account numbers, patient information, all that. Then, of course, ransomware, it still happens where all your data is encrypted and you cannot access it. You probably have to clean up and start up fresh, and you have to pay a certain amount of money for them to give you that information back. Sometimes you have no way of knowing that they will give it back to you. So it's a big trap in ransomware. If you don't have good backup, you might lose a lot. And of course, cyber fraud is happening a lot. Cyber fraud is very common, and it can happen with insider threats. So all these are kind of they're all different challenges or different cyber attacks, but they all fit into each other. So insider threats are disgruntled people who get an opportunity to maybe have access to important information. And once they are maybe paid or they have an incentive, they can do something wrong with your network or organization information. They might not be disgruntled, but they might be manipulated, maybe by someone or a boss that is disgruntled or has more money, or they have a plan to do fraud, and maybe they use their password or they use their key without knowing. So insider threat is also common, but mostly phishing, cyber fraud, insider threats, and that ransomware, and of course data breaches. Those ones are very common in almost all spaces. And of course the big ones, hackers as well, whereby they're trying to teach us a lesson. We've seen the parliament, government, those big ones, but mostly for startups, yeah, those are the ones I can mention.
Yes, indeed. I would say I would say I think from experience working in a setup space,
Yeah.
phishing is common. I would say it's a big time threat where people try to disguise and try to trick you into delving certain information. And I
Yeah.
think most hacks that I've read about, say from the hacks for Uber and others, like these global examples that have been able to talk about breaches, it's I think more around users. Users are serving more as the weak point. So users being tricked into giving out certain information has really, I think, even if you secure your systems and your user is
Yes.
tricked into giving out, say, their credentials, their passwords. Look at the DOU hack. They're saying an individual's credentials were compromised. But I would say this is really insightful, and I believe down the road we're going to see ways into which we can try to prevent this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next question is how can startups and small businesses effectively implement cybersecurity measures without breaking the bank? Because cybersecurity can be big, but could attract big budgets. And
Yes.
I think teams rarely have cybersecurity personnel on the teams, right? I would say, as you know, in Uganda, we want to hire a few people to do the job, wear so many hats, or probably have, say, because cybersecurity is a very huge, requires huge budgets, right?
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
can also testify if we asked you come and do some cybersecurity work for us, you would give us a quote, not even in UGX, but in USD. So how can startups and small businesses effectively
Yeah.
implement cybersecurity measures without breaking the bank?
Well, I think it's a shot in the foot to want to cybersecurity, but of course, someone has to start somewhere. It's not cheap in the actual sense, but it's not impossible to set up controls that can help. But of course, like you've said, the very first thing is invest in user trainings. Invest in user trainings. Make sure your people are security averse. Make sure they are aware, because we are no longer calling them the weakest link. We're calling them the first line of defense, to empower people to know that the organization you work for, it's also your source of bread. So if you protect your information, you are contributing in a way. But if you don't empower them, if you don't teach them, if you don't test what you've taught, so in other words, invest in either you can get a platform which allows you to do continuous, because it's not a one-day thing. You can't just call an expert to come and talk to them once a year and expect that that is enough. So you can subscribe to an affordable platform that allows your users to be continuously trained and tested. These platforms, there is one that like KnowBe4, which is a bit on the upper echelon, but you can set up maybe GoFish, you can set up, there's some affordable tools which you can set up. They keep sending your users training information and testing information. In other words, you send test phishing emails to see how many people will click on the link, and you will know how your people are doing. At first, maybe all of them will click, but as you continue to do training and testing, you'll see that it's reducing. Then invest beforehand. Definitely invest in information, but invest beforehand. So what I mean by that is cybersecurity is more expensive doing it backwards. If you wait for an attack to happen, you are paying twice, because you are paying for the controls you should have put in the first place, and you have also lost something. So you had to first lose before you invested. But if you get the affordable, all the ones that are in your budget, the controls that you can afford, but you have at least something, so that you don't leave it for later when an attack has happened, because cybersecurity is more expensive when you do it backwards. Then, of course, have relationships, have a relationship with maybe someone you think is trained in cybersecurity or is on the journey to be a cybersecurity professional, so that they can work with you that journey. You can involve them in your projects. They can give you a look at your projects, even without feeling like you're employing them. You can facilitate them here and there. The people are there. Sometimes through networks, you could do, I don't know, quid pro quo. So you find a way of using your networks to say, we have this project, could you come through, sit on our ideation, or could you just help us, tell us which tools to use to run these scans? Generally, use your networks. And then, of course, consider the best budget, the best option within your budget, even if it is a scanning tool, if it is a pen test that you're going to do. The idea is do something, even if it is less, but do something. Just be doing something, so that you don't just leave it to say, we don't have a budget yet. Yeah.
Wow, this is really insightful. I think 3 key points is investing in user trainings, utilizing your networks, and also considering the best option within your budget.
Yes.
I'd say this is a good start, at least without breaking the bank. Thank you for those insights. Moving on to the next question. What are some of the common cybersecurity mistakes that startups or software engineers, developers, or people working in a startup often make that you've observed?
The God complex. I find that the hardest thing to break on any person in technology, thinking that you have knowledge of everything. thinking that you can do everything alone, I think, is the worst thing you can do to yourself. If you are the developer, you cannot be the one reviewing your own code. If you are you need to have someone do a user acceptance test for you so that they can pick up something you could have missed. I find that most
Yeah.
times working with people in tech, we tend to think that I don't need, you don't want to be criticized. You don't want your work to be checked or looked at again, because it might mean going back to, backwards. And this affects security a lot, because what happens is most times it becomes a pull and push situation. When a security person looks at your work, they're not trying to criticize your work because your application is working. It's doing all the requirements that the business asked for. However, there could be some security things that you miss. You could have used a version of a library or a framework that is vulnerable, and you might not see it because it's working. So when someone else looks at your code, or it's good, it's for your own good. So I think a mistake we make most times is to be self-sufficient, or to be self-indulgent. I'm not sure what word to use, but thinking that you can cover everything alone is a mistake. So working in teams, I think, is the best way we can break down most of these barriers, even if it's not just security. When it comes to user acceptance testing, sometimes you might do something, it is working, but there is something that could be broken, or but a certain functionality that's not working. So when it comes to security, you need to trust that a security person is not fighting with you, they're working with you. Yeah. Then the other thing is to just throw in the towel and not consider how important security is right from the beginning. Because when you do your project and then you give it to a security person for a pen test, what if they miss something? Because it's only going to depend on how skilled they are, how much time they have, what tools they have. You could give one pen tester and they get 5 findings. You give another pen tester, they get 10 findings. And that doesn't mean that this one is wrong. It's just that's what they have at their disposal, and that's what they have found. So pen tests are they're very kind of, they depend on the person who's going to do them. But if you have been moving the journey with a security person without waiting for the end, then you're going to have most of these things covered, and you will have more confidence. Even when the pen test comes through and gives you only 3 findings, you know that at least most of these things you've covered them. So I think those are some of the mistakes I can say without spending so much time on that.
Yeah. I would say, as you shared, I think it's good. I think keep key learning was include security as part of your development process, right? Just you don't
Yes.
wait longer on. But you shared
Yeah.
something called pen test. Or could you share more, just a brief on pen test, just for our audience?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. I was rushing through it. So a pen test is short for a penetration testing exercise, where you have built your application or you have your project, and you want someone to come and take a look by actually, first of all, identifying any weaknesses, which we call vulnerabilities. But yeah, in actual sense, just weaknesses that can be exploited or that can be broken to get into your application. So the role of a pen tester is to identify those weaknesses and actually break them and show you how, give you evidence of this is what I found, this is the existing exploit that I used, and this is how I got in. So this is what you should do to to make this vulnerability go away. The report will be clear from what the scope of what they're going to do or what they're going to cover, the tools they're going to use, how long they're going to do it for, and then they'll give you a clear list of what they have found as weaknesses, how they exploited them, and it will also show you how easy it is to break them. Is it critical? If it's critical, it means that you need to fix it immediately. If it's high, so you will have different levels: critical, high, medium, low. And depending on criticality, the idea is don't go with an application that has these weaknesses into production. Don't take it to the market until you have at least cleaned this report. And so they will show you what they have found, and they'll give you recommendations on how to fix them. Then once you're done, if you have the budget, they will retest for you by doing again that same exercise to show that you have fixed them. So it's really a rigorous exercise. And usually people do it at the end of a project before it goes into production, which is why I was saying it's important to have someone who is maybe in-house or you have a relationship with that kind of walks the journey with you to make sure that when the pen test happens, then there are few findings and you don't have to go back to the drawing board. Sometimes you find that you have a library that is weak or vulnerable, or a framework that you chose to use is vulnerable. And now going back actually breaks your tool or your application. Now you're trying to look for new options. And now you are behind on the timelines. So you find that it's really disadvantageous to you as the developer to make this at the end. Yeah, hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks for that clarity. And I think this somewhat hints on probably the next question, right? Because
Yeah.
now we have talked of all these cybersecurity threats, how we can be able to implement some of these measures, what
Yeah.
are some of the mistakes we as engineers or people working in startups often do. But then
Mhm.
now, how can we integrate security into our development processes from the start? Because I think this is something you hinted on. Rather than waiting
Yes.
for us to go to production or go to market, and then we are rushing, we find that we have used, say, a library or a package that has serious issues, then we
Yeah.
need to go back again, change or decide, no one will hack us. Let's just go to the production, shall fix later. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can we integrate security into development processes from the word go?
Yeah.
So what are some of the
And
recommendations you have?
yeah, and I like what you've said that no one will hack us, because that's another mistake I should have mentioned. We think that, oh no, we don't have money, we're not like moving money. I will tell you there's a time a pharmacy called and all their data had been encrypted and they could not work for 2 days. They had no backup. We had to go back from the beginning. And it's a pharmacy, they're just selling drugs. So anyone can be attacked by cyber threats. Back to your question, DevSecOps it's so far what I'm seeing as a solution to most of our problems. The way I mentioned it earlier is that we can't work alone. We can't all work alone. As security, I depend on you to give me your project. As development, you depend on me to give you comfort that I have tested and I am confident that your project is somewhat 90% good to go. Because again, we said there is nothing like 100% security, but somewhere. So operations, they want to see things moving. So I think if we do a DevSecOps kind of development model, this means that much as we have DevOps, we need to have security in the middle so that we do a shift to the left. What I said is shift. We are currently most times doing security to the right, which means we're doing it at the end of the development cycle. So if we can consider bringing security to the left, that is in the SLDC. So when you are creating your idea from the business, the moment that they're sharing their requirements with the developer, let there be a security person on board. Even if it's just on a call or it's just in a room, let them be there. Because they will ask you some questions that you might not have thought about. So as you're developing, as you're doing your architecture diagram, and sometimes people don't draw diagrams, but you have to do a diagram to have a map, a roadmap of what you're going to develop. So You might not have an architect, but you can have a UI, UX, you can have someone to sketch it up for you. And when you present this diagram to the developer or the security person, they will also, it will also help to highlight so many things. So in other words, all the steps, let the security person be involved so that they are not given a project at the end and you're briefing them. This is what we wanted to do. This was the request from the business. This is what we did. Can you test? It becomes a rush job for a security person. But once they have been part of the journey, they could even recommend things along the way. So there are tools that we can use. I'm sure you probably might ask me later. But if you're, for example, using GitHub, GitHub has advanced security. This is not a kalango for them because, of course, they're not paying me, but they have advanced security, and it's kind of course, you have to pay for it. You have licenses to pay for. So if you have at least one license, whenever you push your code, it scans in real time and it shares, it gives you a report. And this is not the only one. Like most pipelines, okay, you have maybe a CI/CD pipeline, or if you're developing on your local hosts and you don't have, I don't know what to say to you now, but if you have a pipeline, try including, embedding maybe check marks that can run code scan for you. Check marks is another tool that you can use. Some of them are quite affordable. You can use them to do a code scan along the way so that they can pick up these issues. GitHub Advanced Security for it, every time you commit code, it will run a scan. Of course, sometimes we turn it off because they think it's time wasting. But if you have your project and you're almost ready, you can push and then it will run a quick scan, give you a report. It is either A rated up to like F, and then you keep remediating. And by the time your project is done, you have at least closed most of the issues. Yeah. So I think DevSecOps will help for now.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
say DevSecOps is really a buzzword, I would say, that has come up of
Yes, it
recent.
is.
And as you've said, we need to start working to the left, right? While
Yes.
including processes. We have written the code.
Yeah.
We have a pipeline of how we move this code, test it, build it, prepare it, say, to a deployment, to a cloud target, right? Because I
Yeah.
would say in most cases, as developers nowadays, we always opt to use cloud. Now,
Yes.
as we move our applications from our local environments, our local development environments, set to the cloud, what are some
Mm.
of, because you will find that we have so many engineers on the call. Some use Azure, some use AWS, others use GCP, others use DictOcean, others use Linode, others use a number of cloud providers from Heroku. There are so many, even some here in Uganda. So what are some of the best practices you can recommend for any engineer out there in regards to
Right.
securing your cloud-based applications?
Right. Yeah. So the principles are the same. They don't change because we are now moving to the cloud. Of course, if you put a
Yeah,
vulnerable application in the cloud, it will still be, vulnerable. So right from the beginning, you need to get your basics right. Does it make sense? Before
yeah,
you load it, you upload it on the cloud. So you want to you want to be sure that you've covered your basics. But of course, your cloud provider is going to give you options. Pay for them, like the security options they have. Pay for them. Sometimes they're separate from the package and you feel like it's an extra cost, but pay for them. AWS, Azure, they're really good. Like we can trust that they have kind of created a reputation of security, and these other people as well. You have to, of course, do some research before you consider an option for your cloud provider. But the principles remain the same: regular scans for all your assets and monitoring them for any vulnerabilities. That still remains the same as it was on-prem. It still remains the same in cloud. Of course, inline security options are important. Um, the options that the cloud provider is giving you, and do an assessment before you put the application on the cloud and share it out there. Invest in such things that are going to protect you from the future instead of waiting for something to happen. But the principle remains the same as it was on-prem, still in the cloud. So,
Yeah, really insightful. So I think one thing we have seen as we have been having this discussion is the mention of terms from pen test to DevSecOps. But then
yeah,
I would say these are more like cybersecurity trends, right? And
yeah.
also how 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 can we stay updated with the latest cybersecurity trends and threats, in your opinion? How do you stay up to date, for example, with what's happening and you're able to implement this, see it go ahead? Because I can say you working with Stanbic means you need to be at the top of your game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how can we really stay updated?
So we all know that working in technology means continuous reading and
Yeah.
learning. It just never stops. So majorly, you have to be open. You have to be ready for that. Endless reading and learning and studying. So what I recommend is threat intelligence. Get interested in threat intelligence because what threat intelligence does, it gives us real-time feeds, like real-time information about possible cyber threats. And if there is a zero-day vulnerability or a zero-day attack, so what a zero-day is that no one has actually found a solution for it, or even the service provider doesn't know about this vulnerability or attack. So you could be the first one to know about this particular issue. It could be on your local host or something. So when people do their incident checks, when people find information, they put into these uh, threat intelligence feeds. And as many people find those vulnerabilities, then it becomes an issue. Then it goes into, it keeps growing as many people find it. And we want to all know the same information. So if you subscribe to threat intelligence feeds, there is Hacker One News, there are Darknet series, there are different channels you can follow. There is, I think, SANS Institute. They have a storm information center. Then you have, for phishing, there is one called Open Fish. It's also a threat intelligence feed. So the idea is just look for threat intelligence feeds that you can follow. And of course, I would encourage that you have a separate email for these things because they can be overwhelming with information. So if you put them in your normal Gmail or your work email, you might be overwhelmed and never read them. But if you have your designated email for what you subscribe to or what, then I would encourage you to use that email because you set aside an hour, you can just read through the different, new threats that are around the corner. But of course, majorly, stay alert, read the news, attend boot camps like these, volunteer your time to share information because the more you share, the more you learn. Majorly, you will hear about, oh, what happened? Oh, what happened? Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say it's really insightful, and also as attending webinars or following someone in that field.
Yes. Yes,
I
that's
would
also a
say
good thing.
I would say this is something, not shouting or giving credit, but this is something. I followed you on LinkedIn, I think
Thank you.
earlier mid this year, and
Yeah.
I saw an interesting. I think I was able to, you keep reposting, sharing cybersecurity content,
Yes.
and even I was able to see something to do with, say, API Security University.
Yes. It's a good one.
I think, yeah, I think if you can allow me to just to share this, I saw you retweeted something like this, and I was like, wow, where
Yes.
has such a resource been, right? Because these guys have courses that I would say any developer can start to do. and
Yes.
they can have
They are
the basic
free.
fundamentals. Yeah. And
Yes.
I was like, wow, where have you been all this long on from our LinkedIn? But yeah, but I would say it was really insightful, following people in your field and tips you've shared, I think can be really keen, staying abreast with the latest trends happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we run startups and we often want to build a strong cybersecurity culture from ground up.
Yeah.
But which approaches would you recommend? Because startups cover people, cover systems, cover processes. How can we build a strong cybersecurity culture from the ground up?
Yeah, I think this is it still fits into what we've been talking about, majorly
Yeah,
training and availing information, giving people the opportunity, and of course getting buy-in from management. That is usually a hard one. When management is not aware of why this is important, it becomes a hard sell. Even when you
yeah,
want to get someone to come and talk to the people or you want to run a training, it becomes hard. So you want to do a good presentation for management that is easy to understand for them to know the importance so that they can support your initiatives, especially if you don't have a dedicated security team or security person. So if you're the head of IT or if you're the head of developers or you are the developer and you think it's important, then you need to get off your technology horse, your high technology horse, and get into real conversations with your management so that they can give you the budget to either buy the right controls, pay for the right scanning tools, all those things. Because if you don't, for them, they will pay for the best firewall and think that's enough. So get the management involved, let them know that this is important by showing them what's at stake exactly, how much they could stand to lose. And then, of course, you have to train the people, you have to invest in what you can afford at that time from as you grow, of course, as you grow, like I've said. But mostly, I think it is trying to get the basics right, making
yeah,
sure security is involved in every project. You cannot say, oh, some projects we get, some are critical projects, we get security assessments, some we don't. So it's only the vulnerable, your weakest point is the one that will be, used. So
yeah,
you can't oversee it, cannot be oversight. Yeah.
yeah. How some will say, no one will ever bother hacking that. I think it's,
Yes,
it's a very common word. Yeah, but
yes.
thanks again for those insights. And since we are talking about startups, what are the essential tools or technologies that you believe every startup should have, at least to start out with? Because, that
Well,
you believe.
I believe if you are a startup that is doing web applications or APIs, or of course, we are all doing these things, mobile applications, you need to have dedicated firewalls for them, not just the network firewall, you should have a web application firewall, you know, that will
WAF.
help. Yes, a WAF. I didn't want to say that because I have to make sure things are a bit clear. So you need to get a
Yeah,
WAF, invest in a good WAF that will help you. It is not 100%. Don't depend on only the network firewall to cover you. Then get a web application firewall. I think it's important to have scanning tools for code, the code best, the scanning tool for web applications, and there's so many out there that you can choose from. I don't want to mention different names, but choose a scanning tool that is in your budget, but just make sure you have something. Then regularly, of course, check what is being picked up and remediate, because these applications are like us. Sometimes you fall sick, you get a flu, sometimes the library gets out of it's now no longer supported. So you need to know, yeah. Then of course you
yeah,
need certificates. You need to make sure that you are putting the right certificates, you are getting them signed by the right signing authorities. because these are small things that sometimes you go to someone's website and it's not using a transport layer security or TLS, or they're using a very old version. So those small things that you are using HTTP, or you're making your information to move in like open, it's just there, it's not encrypted. So I think those are important technologies to put in place. Then of course, if you are doing business that with like people logging into your applications, you're collecting very important information that is personal identifiable information, I think you should look at the frameworks like NIST and PCI DSS. If you're maybe working with cards and you're keeping people's information, it's important to equip yourself with the tools that are going to help you conform to these frameworks, because that's where you start from. If you look at the framework and it says you probably don't have a standard or a policy because you are working as 4 or 5 people, you are doing your thing and your tools are working, then you can just go online and look at these frameworks. You have the NIST framework, PCI DSS, you have NIST framework. All these frameworks, they're free. They're there. You can read them. Then it will guide you on what you need to do. Then it will also guide you to the tools. Because right now, if we say everyone should get this particular tool, not everyone has that budget. However, the concept remains the same. What you're trying to achieve is security, and there is a tool for everyone's budget, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. But say you saying, because this is technology, and I would say we live in an open source world, right? So if one finds a certain tool is expensive, there are open source tools out there. For example, you talked of code scanning tools. You talked of, say,
Yeah.
if if we are at fact scanning, say if we use Docker images, we can still scan them. You talked
Yeah.
of a number of principles. I think when we shared API Security University, it just even
Yeah.
showed some of the few fundamentals that could get you
Yes.
out there. At least you start from there, then with time, you get to explore different things. But at least at the end of the day, you'll have to spend somewhere or here or there. But
Exactly.
security is fundamental. It costs, right? So, for example,
Yes.
the pharmacy you shared, they lost all their data. Their data was encrypted. It means
Yes.
the time to enter all that data, track sales, and
Yes.
you see pharmacies, they once they decide to go dicto, they go dicto. And
Yes.
now if you are AKM and they want to do e-freeze or assess them, they don't have
Thank
access to those
you.
records, which
Thank
is a
you.
very expensive process of getting each receipt, hire someone to enter. So yet if you had spent on, say, a network or an endpoint security
Yes.
or an antivirus, you could have prevented that. Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
this is something we need to learn. I think I would say the people on call appreciate it. Yeah, but then we say these incidents always happen, right? And
Yeah.
in your opinion, how can startups, because yeah, we have people who work for startups and people who will probably who are founders, and how
Mhm.
can startups effectively manage or respond to some of these incidents? Because, for example, like a flu, it will attack you, you take medicine. But now,
Mhm.
if an incident happened, how would you respond?
Well, so there is a joke that people say, what should I do when there's an incident? And the answer says, avoid panic. So
Which is true.
the the very best thing to do is to, like I said, security is expensive backwards. Every
Yeah,
time something happens, and that's when you know about it or its existence, you are going to either pay more. You're going to get a consultant who is going to come, first of all, to respond to the incident and also to get you out of this issue, which is okay, but it's expensive because a consultant is going to ask you for a very lump sum, and it's urgent because now it's like you have no option. But the best way I can say is to simulate. Sometimes, we are busy and these things don't bring money directly, but they help
yeah,
us to prepare ourselves. So if you can instead of getting a consultant to come and get you out of a fix, because also as a startup, you need to have someone on call, right? for these things. Like you know how you have a plumber on call, you have an electrician that you call when there is an issue. You need to
or a
have
doctor.
security. Yes, you have a doctor. You need to have a security personnel that you consult with. So they might not be the very high-end organizations, but you have someone who you can reach out to. So you can simulate an attack in your space as small as you are or as big as you are. You ask these security people to simulate for you an attack. They will create for you. Some of these things are expensive, but they're good in the long run. But as a startup, this is just an idea. As you grow, if there are managers here, the idea is to let your IT teams go through these pressurizing experiences in a simulation event. So if they have that opportunity to be under pressure, because as an incident can go on for days, or it can last for 1 day or an hour. How do you even know that it's an incident? You understand? What do you do if you're the first one to catch an incident? So there's need for training. There's need for there's need for playbooks. There's need for a whole incident response plan. That's a documentation that you have to come up
Oh,
with as an organization. And it has to be shared with everyone. They should know if I'm the one to find the incident or I've caught something, what do I do? Who do I call? You need to have an escalation matrix of who do I talk to? Can I tell my boss? What if I make other people panic? You understand? So it's very important. What if I plug out the computers? And so,
yeah,
everyone will act differently when there is an incident. So you want to train your people so that they all have uniform information. You need to have an incident response plan. This is a document that is done well and documented and shared with everyone in the department so that they know this is what we do in case of an incident. Then this plan has to be tested. That's the incident response simulation I'm talking about. So you get a tool or you get a consultant or an organization to come and create for you an attack scenario. And you will be in a room, like spend 4 hours, 5 hours, and everyone does what they should be doing. And you see how you will actually react in terms of an incident. Now, that's preparation. And of course, when an incident happens, I think the question was, how can we effectively manage and respond? So the first thing is to prepare for them. The second thing is to now, in case the incident happens, when you have now gone through your trainings and an incident happens, then you come back and review how you actually did when the incident happened, right? And you update your incident response plan and say, this one didn't work, let's remove it. So majorly, it's all about the people who are going to deal with the incident, because at the end of the day, the technologies are the same, the attacks are the same, but what you do in that time and how you do it and what you do after. So of course, maybe you have to fire someone because they were the source of the issue, or because someone was not trained. Now you have to redo the awareness training. So you come back and study what would have caused the incident.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's really insightful. So simulation, training, having in place an incident response plan. So some teams might
Yes.
not have in place incident response plans, but they have in place disaster recovery plans. Is that, I think there's no much difference. They're kind of
There
similar.
is there is a difference
Yeah,
because now disaster recovery is covering everything in terms of quantity, quality, numbers, business. Could
yeah,
it be a fire? Could it be water? Could it be different things? But when it comes to incident response, this one you are totally looking at the technology, but the concept is kind of the same. So you need both. You can't
yeah.
The disaster recovery plan might not detail for you what will happen in an incident response plan. Yeah, but
Oh,
it's a component in the disaster recovery.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's really insightful. So as we have said, if these security incidents happen,
Mm.
uh, what are the legal or regulatory implications of these threats for startups? Because people think if you're hacked, there's no legal complication, but we have seen hacks happening abroad and people are fined, people are done. So much happens. So for local context for Uganda, what are some of the legal implications of breaches or these incidents?
Yeah, so the consequences of neglecting security are immense. Or not just neglecting, but being in a space where you have had an incident. Of course,
Yeah,
even before the legal implications, you have a reputation to keep. If you're the one who
brand.
is always being hacked, if you're the one who is always being defrauded, even without a hack, and people's information is getting lost, or you're the one who is not paying attention to people's information, you're storing it wrongly, people's names are being used in, chapati vendors.
Yeah, it's a common
People
thing.
will not, yeah, you lose trust, and of course
Bags.
that affects your bag, definitely. Once you are the one who is being always attacked, your clients who would have opened accounts with you will not come. Clients who would have signed up for your tool will not come. So the reputation plays with your money, definitely. And of course, now when it comes to the first implication, money, fines. If someone sues your organization because of an incident and it impacted them, I'll give you, in reality here, we think these things are like so far, but when you look at a hospital and they have been attacked and information is leaked, there's no money involved, no money has been stolen. But let's say you have a chronic disease and you are running for a certain important role. It may be an organization or in government. And now, and a malicious user like me, I have this information. Then I call, let's say, a minister and tell them, I've got your information from this hospital. I need this amount of money or else I'm going to leak it. Because that is going to play with the minister's money or image, and the hospital was negligent. So the minister can actually sue the hospital because they didn't keep his information safe. Because now he is under attack. And this goes deeper. In the US, people are called and people are their pension is taken. Like all the money you've been saving for your retirement can be taken because information was stolen. This information can be used to create attacks. And we think it's small because, well, it's a data breach, no one is going to use it, but it's big. Data is very, very key. So you can be sued in the courts of law and a case can actually be made against your organization and you can be paying high fines. Then, of course, compliance requirements. We are held by high ethical values in terms of data privacy. We have a Data Privacy Act, Data Protection Act just came out. We have the Computer Misuse Act that was created a few years ago. All these acts, they hold us accountable. We are custodians of people's data, and that data doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the owners. The data owner is you, the name, who owns the name, the account number, and everything. And you have a right to say, for me, after 5 years, I don't want you to keep my information. After 10 years, there are rules that say after this amount of time, you should discard this data. So why are you keeping that data? If someone comes and sues you for that, you can still pay for it. So there are consequences, actual legal consequences for these incidents. And of course, the best way is to avoid them from happening. But people get real affected by these things. Um, People lose jobs, people go to jail, and it's hard to come back. People get blacklisted. If you're the one who is responsible, you can get blacklisted because you maybe failed here and there, or you were tricked, but you can get blacklisted and you can't get employment. So there are very many consequences. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would say it's really insightful when you share something to do with compliance,
Yeah.
because I think we can testify that we have in place a National Data Protection Act and
Yes,
Computer Misuse Act, and
yes.
these if you take a look at this law, there are certain breaches. Say if you're sued, say for a breach, and you don't disclose, I think there's also
Yes.
a fine for that. And
They're
sometimes
heavy
organizations
fines.
are now being required to have that certificate, more like the way you have your trading license certificate. If you're processing any user data, have a login form, have a sign up form. So people trust you with their information. So the little you can do to protect it is really vital. So I would say thank you for that great insight around compliance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we have really explored from approaching cybersecurity insights for individuals and for startups. Now we have a group of engineers on call. We know the number is small. So let's look at cybersecurity as a career. So
Yes.
we talk when you're introducing yourself earlier, you introduce yourself as a cybersecurity expert. But now, in regards to taking this path, what are some of the skills or certifications you believe are essential for one to have a successful career in cybersecurity?
Yeah. I get this question a lot and it makes me happy.
Yeah,
But because I know that it's a desire for people to change fields, to explore different things. However, I always tell people that it's not a one-day thing, just like what you are doing wasn't a one-day thing. If I wanted to come do what you do, I would have to go back from probably where you started. You can't teach me what you know in a month or two. So I always say
yeah,
the same thing is get your basics right. Get your fundamentals right. So you don't want to be the person that does not know what a vulnerability is or what an exploit is. So the first things are get the fundamentals. So if you can get into the habit of reading, there are different resources that are free. So I always say at least try exploring those because they can help you to map out or to even get an idea what this is about. So there Allison courses has free 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 courses. There is Coursera, I think Udemy, you have now to pay. But the idea is get online resources that will get you started with fundamentals. If you go online and just say fundamentals of cybersecurity, the options will
that's
be so
right.
many. If you just say fundamentals of let's try it and see fundamentals of cybersecurity. I usually recommend that because you'll find different offerings. The only challenge with it is that now there's
Wow, there's
Microsoft.
Microsoft
Yeah.
Learn.
Yeah. So if you put fundamentals of cybersecurity,
Yeah,
so you see
um,
that they have a learning
yeah,
path. Yeah. So now you have to,
perfect.
after you've done this, you have to get into the habit of doing the practical things. So there are also other platforms like Try Hack Me. You've heard about Try Hack Me?
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
about it, but we don't know if the people on call have, but probably here it is. Yeah, TryHack Me is a
Yeah. Try
very
Hack Me is a good
insightful
security
platform.
training tool. There is Hack
Yeah,
the Box. Um, Hack the Box. And these ones are good because as engineers, you're kind of practical people. So the theory might be very boring, but these are good places to start to to build your curiosity around, security concepts. And
yeah,
there is a guy called the Cyber Mentor. You just help me type the Cyber Mentor. He also has a YouTube channel and sometimes he does boot camps. I find him very yeah, the cyber mentor. So if you feel like you're more advanced, you've done these things, hack the box, this guy is very, I recommend him. How, like, if you have the focus and you can stick to it, you can just go through his lessons. He even has an academy, like a whole website called the TCM Academy. And yeah, that one. Um, you can sign up. I think you pay a certain amount, or the cost. I don't know if the courses are free, and then you have to pay for the exam. I'm not sure, but there are training options, and if you are interested. But if that's not the path you want to take, you can still go and enroll into an academy. and start from there. Like if you want a physical class or a hands-on class with real people that you can talk to and call on phone in Uganda. Yeah, there are some academies you can go to. I know Milima Cyber Academy has some courses.
Should we
There
showcase them,
is, yeah, you can
or
check them
we ask
out.
them to
They will pay
participate?
for the kalango. Yeah, that's where
Yeah,
I went personally. That's where I started from. And I did their course. It was like 8 weeks. Um, and the fundamentals, at least how to install your Kali, how to what are we
yeah,
talking about? Because it'll take you all the way from networking to all these other different things. And of course, those skills are important, the basics. But before you pay for anything, I would recommend you first go the online route. If you find these things are difficult, they are not for you, then you don't have to spend that money. Because let's face it, um, it might look nice, but it might not be your passion. Yeah. So it's
yeah,
important to first test out and see if it's what you want. Then, of course, I will say that it's important to note that not everyone in cybersecurity is an ethical hacker. Cybersecurity is bigger than ethical hacking, and this is a myth that people usually think everyone in cybersecurity is hacking. No, there are people who
yeah,
are in charge of the SOC, which is Security Operations Center. There will be cybersecurity engineers. There are people who are in charge of identity and access management. There are people who are in charge of compliance. There is security operations. There's so many options. So you need to find what exactly you want to do in cybersecurity before you get bored with one thing. Not everyone is interested in the same things. Then, of course, you spoke about certifications. It's important to get your fundamentals before you jump onto certifications, in my opinion, because a certification is supposed to show that you know this thing, you have done it for a certain period of time. We are certifying that you are now good in this thing. And so when you jump into certifications, you might get discouraged because you're supposed to have at least some time of experience. But without taking away from that, you can start with the Google cyber security certificate. It's good. It has fundamentals. It will take you through all the things you need. Then the CompTIA CISA Plus, it's also good. CompTIA Security Plus as well is a good one to start with, especially when you're starting. GISC is also good, Security Essentials, and then Certified in Cybersecurity. So these are for starting. But of course, there are those
yeah,
big ones like CEH. I know people always want me to talk about it. But to do CEH, you need to have like 5 years of experience, right? So that you don't waste money and then you also don't get discouraged because it is
yeah,
certifying that you are now able to do ABC and D. But if you go directly to start doing certifications, you might lose the mark. So that's why I
yeah,
always say, get your fundamentals right. Then also you have to volunteer your time. You have to volunteer your time. You have to go and help people like developers. And me, I used to go on boot camps, and every time I would be in a group of developers, I would say, I am the security person on this team. So I would just be there. I'm not front end, I'm not back end, I'm not doing anything else. I'm just being a security person in the boot camp. And most times, I think we won like 2 times. But so all I'm saying is if you really, really like this is what you want to do, you you start to focus on it and you volunteer your time to test people's things. When someone is working on an application, tell them, let me scan for you. Then you learn, you get. So you have to volunteer.
yeah,
At some point you have to work for free before you can get paid. Then of course you'll have to brand yourself and put yourself out there. The more you read, you share what you have learned. Someone will type in the comment section, have you explored this concept? Then you go back and read about it. Majorly, it's an endless journey of learning. Yeah.
yeah.
The
Wow.
whole point
Thanks for
is
those
just to
insights.
stay teachable, stay curious. The rest you
Yeah,
can learn. Yeah.
isn't it? You talked of rewarding aspects. What are some of the most rewarding aspects of a career in cybersecurity?
The
You already talked of
endless.
one.
Which one?
I think it is you start working for free, get the experience, then you get a pay. You
Yeah,
know?
then you get paid. Yeah. Most people say, oh, you have to be passionate. What? Some days you want to be passionate because it's difficult. Some days you'll be tired. But if you
Yeah,
know why you want to do this thing, you will stay in it. Just like whatever field you're in, it's not easy to do development, to stay up and debug. But because it pays you or because it's something you're interested in, you stay and you do it. So the same thing, it's rewarding because it's very challenging. If you're a person who likes to challenge your mind, to learn more, to read more, to stay curious, you will not do the same things every day because every project is different. So it's very rewarding in that sense that you're always being pushed to your limits to read more, to learn more, to study more. Of course, to be for me now, like a woman in tech and in cybersecurity, it gives me that opportunity to give back, to say, you know what, guys, it's possible for women to do this thing, even for others, like for gentlemen. And most times you get a question from someone saying, you do cybersecurity and you're a woman. And it's like, yes, there are so many others out there. Maybe you just don't know them, but they're there. So it gives me that opportunity to share my experiences and to encourage others, but also the pay once at some point, it might take some time, it might be earlier, the stories are different, the journeys are different, but the truth is the there's a lot of opportunities in cybersecurity, be it here in Uganda or abroad. But the challenge is the skill. Do you have the skill to do that job? People will interview you, but they will need you to actually know what you're saying, you know. So that's the challenge. The challenge is the pool, the work pool. There's a lot of work to be done, but the people who can do the work are not so many. So the same people will be applying for the same jobs in every place.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's rewarding, and the pay can be good when once you finally get to know how much you should be paid, you learn how to negotiate, you learn how to organize your CV. The pay can be good depending on who is hiring you. But of course, there's burnout and the work is a lot. So you have to, it's kind of a balance thing. But it's rewarding all in all.
yeah. Wow. Thanks for that. Probably I have just two more questions, then I open the floor to anyone who might have questions.
Mhm.
There's some already in the chat, but so we have seen people with technical backgrounds. How about
Yes.
someone with a non-technical background? Say I'm a I'm a DJ, you know, or
Yeah.
I'm a let me say I'm a farmer, I'm a teacher. How can
Yeah.
I transition into this career?
Mm.
What are some of the few hints or pointers you could share
Yes.
for someone who's non-technical? Because we have showcased all these things, but they require some technicality. How about the person
Yes.
who's non-technical?
Yes. So I still recommend the same journey, definitely. However, it will be a bit steeper for someone
Yeah,
with a non-technical background. But the once when you get your when you get the fundamentals, you start
yeah,
to organize your passions to line with what you want. So that's why I said not everyone is going to be an ethical hacker, because as a non-technical person, I might find that harder. But I could decide to be in maybe compliance, or I could decide to be in risk management. I could
yeah,
decide to be in data privacy. I could decide to be in forensics, you know, because cybersecurity also has that forensic side. I could be, I could decide to just do awareness trainings because
yeah,
awareness is also now big, but you cannot know those things without doing the basics or the fundamentals. So majorly, I still recommend to go through the different channels that we have talked about, get the fundamentals or the basics, and say, okay, I see what this is about. Then see what options are there. What options can I go for? And But of course, as a security person, you are really, really, because what you say can be, someone can take it as gospel truth.
Yeah.
So you have to be very keen to know what you are saying and to be sure. So that's why I always say, get your fundamentals right. Then these other things you can see what to do, because for example, identity and access management could be a good option where you are managing a whole portfolio of who has access to what, when, where. It's a very complicated thing, but
Yeah.
you can do it. You can enter with it. So different options are there. The whole point is to get in and get started.
Yeah. And I think based on what you said, it shows there's vast opportunity, right? Because if
Yes,
you look at user training, looking at this
yes,
fundamentals course, it's mainly describing. There's nothing like code, is mainly reading, understanding
yes.
concepts, and basically, and if you have something to show, because a platform like Microsoft Learn will issue you
Mhm.
with a certificate that say you
Yes,
could go offer cybersecurity trainings to different
yes,
teams, and that could
exactly.
be your cash cow. Yeah. Thanks
Yes.
again for those insights. I think my final question as the moderator would be, what are some of the ethical considerations in cybersecurity, and how can we ensure responsible practices? Really?
So it starts with why you have started this journey, because the
Yeah,
tools are the same, the concepts are the same, the the applications you're all testing or hacking are the same. So now it's a personal, it's kind of a personal thing. What do you want to
yeah,
do? Because if you have been getting all these skills, you've learned how to hack, you can just check out a whole network and see all the vulnerabilities. Are you going to report them to the owners of this organization, or are you going to exploit them for your own gain? That is because we don't have like doctors, how they take a sworn oath, I will be faithful to this oath.
yeah,
We don't have. So it's kind of mostly moral compass, because you can do what a hacker does is the same thing that a security person is supposed to do, but with permission. Does it make sense?
yeah,
So
ethically.
there's literally no tools to say these ones are for ethical hackers, these ones are for bad hackers. You all know we have the black hat, which are the bad people, the white hat, which are the security people who are doing this work, and then you have the gray hats who are like in between. You can be in between for a while, but you could get caught. So majorly, how can we enforce ethical behavior? We rely on moral compass to say you have a license to do this, or you've been doing this and you're doing it ethically. Now, if you get caught doing the bad thing, turning back might not be easy. So
Yeah,
we can only do that by making sure the training people we have, every time you see a YouTube channel, they will tell you this is not supposed to be used for, I don't know, malicious, or please make sure you have permission to use this tool to run this particular scan. So we
yeah,
are mostly relying on moral compass, but as much as there are thieves, that's as much as security people will be needed. As much as there are hackers, there will be need for security people. So why not be on the good side, and why not do the right thing? So most importantly is to come in with a mind of, I'm not going to, I'm not going in for money. I'm going in to secure people. I'm going to contribute to the internet. I'm going to make this space a better place. So what are your convictions at the end of the day will determine. And sometimes people will be like, well, I've been doing this thing for a long time. No one is paying me. I'm not getting a job. Why don't I hack these people? And then they will call me to fix, but you might get caught. So
yeah,
generally, it's a
yeah.
downhill slope. So I would rather that if you come into this field, I would encourage you to really be ethical about it. Yeah.
which is a good takeaway. And I think this is something we need to have at heart, is being ethical in anything we do, right? That's how we win
Yes.
people's trust.
Mm.
Say you are, say for example, I'm home and my neighbor's Wi-Fi is on and I can scan it, I can connect to it. Instead
Yeah.
of tapping illegally, you could harm them, right? And you never
Yes.
know what that connect can benefit you, you know? So
Yes.
so being ethical can get you far. Yeah.
Yes.
But I would say thank you again for sharing those insights. As we come to the close, we have we are opening the room to the floor for a few questions, but I'll start with one in the QA section from Albert Mario. Hello, Famious. It's nice hearing from you again. Could you recommend any open source or free pen test tools one can use to check out a core web application?
Yeah, not necessarily pen test. So most times, tools have a free version and a paid version. Well, of
Yeah,
course, the paid version will have more capabilities, but some of them, even the free version, will give you something. So I think Babsuit is a good tool, the community version of Babsuit. It gives you at least 70 or 75% of what they have to offer, and you can run your scans, you can run quick checks on them. Wireshark is also free. You can use Wireshark to do network mapping, to test, to look for the different issues. Yeah, Babsuit application security testing.
yeah,
So they have a community version, and then they also have a paid licensed version, which is quite expensive. But even the community version is also good. And they also train you on how to use it. So
yeah,
you can just download it and then start running your scans. Then of course, if you have the option of running Kali Linux, it's free and it comes with many, many tools. Of course, but it comes with requirements to learn. So Kali Linux will help you to run phishing attacks. It will help you to test. It has almost every tool, but it's a separate operating system. So you might want to run it in a virtual machine. On top, maybe you can do a dual boot on your computer. And then if you want to test, you can go into your Kali Linux site and run your tests on your web application or your network. Yeah, I think uh, Zap. I don't know if you
yeah,
can just Google for us Zap or Zap.
yeah.
It's also a
So
free tool, and it will give you a good report. It catches very many things. That's for web applications. Yeah, yeah, that one. Zap.
yeah, the framework.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this one. It's
really
also
good.
free. Yeah,
Heard
it's
about
good.
it.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know if I think there could be a paid version. I think it's free. You can just
Yeah,
use it.
community.
Yeah, it can run. It's now even with checkmarks, and checkmarks is one I had told you about code
Yeah.
scanning. So I think they merged this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Wow, this is insightful. But though we recommend that you work hand in hand with a cybersecurity guru, and
definitely.
at least now you have some contacts. Yeah, I think I would take this opportunity to send a shout out to Femias for those who wish to further connect with her on LinkedIn. Yeah, so you can feel free. Just showcasing on
Okay.
LinkedIn, you can reach out to Orishaba Femias for any queries, for any consultancy. She'll be willing to support you, or if you are doing the activity, yeah, for any
Yes.
guidance. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, so coming back to the chat, there was still a question from there was a question from, let me look again back to the chat. So coming back to the chat, we have one question from uh he's called Bruno A. Could you please highlight some benefits of cybersecurity skills for an engineering manager? for an engineer managing a construction project, considering most of the work done is hard copy?
Yeah, that's actually good because
Yeah,
if you are not using the internet, then you are maybe analog, and as security people online, we are securing the internet. So definitely, if
yeah,
you are not using the internet, you have no problem. However, if you are using the internet to share any quotations, or you are using the internet to to run, let's say, your project management tools, or you have, okay, let's say you have sketches for the project. I'm not sure if it's engineering or plumbing, or you have a plan, and somehow you've kept all these things on your computer safely. They're not on the internet, but you logged in on your email, or you left your webcam open, or I have
yeah,
access to your web browser, and all I need to do is to go into your files and then check out the upcoming projects, and then maybe steal your concepts, or I don't know, manipulate the figures and get someone paid more than they can be paid. Generally, you can just never really know how, uh, if anyone can be a victim of a cyber attack if they are a target. If someone is looking for you, they will find a way
yeah,
of manipulating you. You could be in a cyber cafe, you could be in a cafe somewhere, and you don't know that you're a target for someone. So it doesn't matter which field you're in. If you're using a computer or a laptop and you have an email, you have a username that you're using for your money, for your internet banking, generally, it might not be necessarily connected to the papers you're keeping of your work, but if you are aware of how to secure your applications, you know how to create a strong password, you know how to secure your browsers, you know, all these things, the awareness you need now for you will be about how to make sure that while I'm using the internet, I am secure. Because you're not a developer, you're not a security expert, you're not trying to be a cybersecurity person, but you're a user of the internet. You have social media, you are using it to connect with your friends, with your family, and you're posting your things in real time. So someone is creating a map about your lifestyle. And so most times for general users, I encourage you to have basic knowledge about how to use the internet securely. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Uh, David has his hand raised. You can speak. For those who have questions, you can raise your hand. We shall give you a chance to use your mic.
All right. Thank you, Chanda, for inviting Orishaba on this. This has been very intense. I've been actually listening in the entire time. And yes, Orishaba shared very, very good insights. So I probably have two questions or so. And as you probably already know, I lead a community of developers, and we've been holding hackathons for the last probably 14 months or so. And none of those hackathons, surprisingly, had security or cybersecurity in it. It's even
Yeah,
very laughable. Yes, but it's a reality. Like, it's cybersecurity is obviously it's an afterthought, at
Yeah.
least from developers' world, right? People are mostly concerned about how my UI is working, how is it looking, and then the back end, what tools and frameworks should I use, and shipping that getting it to the hands of the user. Um, so, but I think there is probably a justification as well. Like in our market here, you can easily get somebody who wants a website developed or a web application or or a mobile app, right?
Yes.
But in terms of cyber security, like what opportunities are there in terms of the market? If I'm an expert, could I have somebody small business out there uh, giving me a call and saying, can you run through my network or my application and make sure that we are secure and so forth. At least I've never had that call or that much of an opportunity. So, like in terms of market opportunities, how does it look like in this market?
Okay.
And then two is where do you strike a balance between usability and user experience versus security from web application or desktop application point of view? I find this common in banking applications. Like they over-engineer the security to the point of to the detriment or at the expense of user experience, right?
Yeah.
And you've probably forgotten your password, and you just want to reset it, and it's a hassle. You probably even need to physically go to the bank and get somebody resetting it. And even when you go to the bank itself and getting somebody reset it, you probably will not get it done. And yeah, sorry to say, but this has happened to me with your employee up to today. I have access to the mobile app, but I can't access the web app because of there's a mismatch between the app authentication and the web authentication. And even when I've gone to the bank physically, somebody there has not got it fixed. And I keep on wondering, can it really be this hard to strike that balance, between user experience and security? So those are my two questions that I have for you. But thank you for the insight so far.
Okay, thank you, David, for those questions. First of all, I understand your frustration, and it's sad that you have to go through that experience. I want to apologize on behalf of my employer for that, and I hope you can get the help you need. But generally, that definitely might need some time for you to go to the branch, like you said, because sometimes when there is an issue and you call on the phone and you need help, it becomes really very hard. But I understand what you mean. Apologies for that. Kindly please come and let's meet some people, meet us. Anyway, about user experience and security, I understand what you mean. There is need for always us to always strike a balance and to make sure we're not overly hyping the security and making it impossible for a user to enjoy the application. So we are doing. That's why I said we are encouraged to do more DevSecOps than security at the end. Because what happens is someone will bring you a tool and they have missed out all the basic requirements. So when you get such an application, you're going to just be off your mind. You're like, oh my God, you have no this, you have no that, you have no this, you have no that. And then you're going to give all these recommendations and you're going to, because you've picked up all these issues at the end. Does it make sense? So it makes it hard for you to simplify the recommendation, because everywhere you look, you're seeing issues and you are just getting to see this project at the end. But if you're part of the project, you'll understand the technicality, you'll understand where someone will have to go to find what, and you will know, okay, I think we don't need to put two-factor here, we need to put it at the beginning, and then when you're ready in the application, we don't need to again over-authenticate. Or how do you recover the password? You find that maybe the developer didn't put it there, and now you're requiring them to put a phone number, make sure they get a two-factor on their email. And then, so at that point, you are now just looking at only security and not focusing on the user, because you are given a project at the end. Does it make sense? So why I'm saying that is, as a security person, I might overly recommend things that are good, but will impede the user. So it's important that developers get in touch with security people or get into a good relationship with security people so that we all work with the user at the end. Because I have experiences where people think that as a security person, you don't know the pains of a user, but we do. However, we don't have that wiggle room to say, okay, we can leave this one out, we can leave this one out. But that depends on how much you understand the tool. Then the second question is, me, I have received that call where someone called me and they told me, I have my e-commerce tool. I would like you to help me scan it and tell me if there are any issues, help my developers to pick up any problems. But it's only been, I think, twice that I've got such calls since I started cybersecurity. And I know why we don't get those calls as much. I just wanted to make you know that they can happen. And when they happen, we still have to give you a quotation, like Steven said, and it's not cheap. So that's one of the reasons why people don't give us those phone calls, because the moment they see you, security expert, security what, they're like, this person is going to ask for a lot of money even before they tell you what they need. So that's a challenge. And I think that's why such awareness is very important for us to make you know that there is an easier way of working together without thinking about a lot of money. Yeah.
Charges are in USD, not UGX.
No, there's UGX.
It's small in
No.
USD and it's big in UGX. Yeah, but David, hope Famious has been able to articulatively give you the right response. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one question from the chat from Warren: how can a Ugandan security company protect itself from lawsuits if they provide defensive security services to other organizations that may have inside hacking incidences? So this is
Oh,
more of
well.
around Ugandan security companies, say like those that protect people's assets. So how can
Yeah.
they protect themselves from lawsuits if there are, say, these breaches and hacking incidences? Because one would think a security company in a layman's mentality, security company should keep us safe.
I hear you, and I understand that predicament. However, the security company is going to prescribe for you the medicine. They're going to tell you, we are seeing an issue here, or these are the trends we are seeing. We are seeing many people are falling prey for this particular attack. So their job is to equip you to protect yourself. Does it make sense? So the job of the security consultant you have is not to say, oh, you can now go to bed, I have this sorted. No, their job is to say, I have seen this and I think it's urgent, fix it. Or we were looking through this thing, we saw this, and think you need to fix it within 2 months. Now, first is, did that company tell you about this issue? If you have trusted them and they have told you about this issue, now it becomes your responsibility to take care of that issue in the time they have recommended. Does it make sense? So if you don't, it's like if the doctor gave you the medicine and you don't finish your dose, then you feel a little bit better or soothed. Then within 2 weeks, you come back with a bigger problem. You didn't take your medicine as prescribed. Now you are more sick. So when a security company tells you, we think you need to upgrade this particular thing in the next 1 month, and within the next week you get hit because of that vulnerability, then the security company has, like, it's not liable. As you, the owner of the network, you have to be in constant conversation with your security provider. You have to make sure you even when they give you recommendations, look at your budget and ask them, what if we consider this, would it be okay? Then they will tell you, consider this particular thing, but with this on top of it. So it's a constant engagement. Of course, a security company will be only sued if they did not alert you. If you paid them and they didn't find that issue and they didn't alert you about it, and so you didn't do anything. But if they did, then it's your sole responsibility. It's on you to make sure you have adhered to their recommendations in the right time. Because if you keep it to the end of the year for the next year's financial budget, then again, you have not done what you should do. So they did their job, but you didn't adhere to what they recommended.
Yeah, I believe that is really insightful, because everyone has to be responsible for their actions and
Yes,
also
it's
be protected from liability. Yeah.
Yes.
Before we share concluding remarks, any final question from the audience? You can raise your hand up, or I can proceed to our closing remarks for the session. Probably key takeaways. Yeah.
There's a
Humphrey,
question from Humphrey.
Humphrey, your mic is allowed. Please free to unmute and proceed with your question.
All right. Thanks so much for the session. It has really been insightful. Now, me currently in my field, I'm in academia, teaching in an international school where we do computer science, and we have some topics like cybersecurity. How well can we do like having technical people coming to the class, because where we're heading to, students are going to be more exposed to the media or technology. This year we had a session with KPMG, but how well can we collaborate with the experts in the field, come and expose that knowledge to students so that they get interested when they are still young, rather than just not finding the field in the future. Oh, also there's cybersecurity. And when we talk about it, for them, they think it's only hacking. I want to hack your Wi-Fi. I want to hack your PC, something of that sort.
Yeah. Yeah, I am glad that there is such a conversation as introducing these things to young people, because back in the day, everyone wanted to be a pilot or a doctor, and look at us now. Anyway, it's important that they get this exposure. I think you have to leverage your networks. Rooms like these is where you get out of this conversation and you take someone and say, oh, hey, we have this particular program running. Would you consider coming to talk to our children? It can be a buy-in from the school itself, maybe the management of the school, to say we're going to include this particular number of sessions for our students, and then you can explore the different people. There are many experts out there. The academy I spoke about, Melima, has very good people who have mastered the art of talking to youngsters. We would go to different places. I think people are always willing to share this knowledge. It's just that going to the schools and getting the administration to give them that airtime to come and speak to students, it's a whole lot of work. And this is pro bono most times. They're not going to charge you. You might give them some fuel to come to your school, but most times people will not charge you for this kind of engagement. So leverage your networks, like Steven said, follow these people who are doing these things, and ask them, could you come and talk to our students for 1 hour or 2 hours, or we have a boot camp for a week. Could you come at least 2 days a week and talk to our students? People will be happy to actually do that. And of course, you can guide according to how you think information should be palatable to children. Instead of, for example, having this whole technical loaded conversation, it can be broken down into things they can understand. So you who is in academia, you can work with the expert to organize a more palatable, presentation. Does it make sense? Yeah, for the children. And I think that will be very, very good. I would be ecstatic to be part of that kind of engagement.
Yeah, so Humphrey, feel free to engage Famious on LinkedIn. At least she can give you a good breakdown. And talking of breaking down this information for different audiences in a very articulative and understanding way, I'm going to share my screen and probably ask our guest today to just talk about it.
Yes, so the Cyber Cafe, oh my God, we have 10 subscribers. This is nice. We started this 2 days ago. Not necessarily started, but we posted this, the very first post, 2 days ago. And I am very happy that finally, this is something that has been at the back of my mind. Now it's finally taking shape. But the Cyber Cafe for me is the thing that I never had, the place I never had to go to and have conversations with people who are like-minded, who are looking for knowledge, hungry for knowledge. So for me, the Cyber Cafe is going to be a channel, a place, or um, an engagement sort of environment to bring the experts that have been in this field, but not to necessarily teach you how to hack or how to not to necessarily do the things that you can find on YouTube or LinkedIn. This is going to be about how did I transition? What happened when I was transitioning? How did I raise my kids when I have server rooms to be in? How, me as a husband, how did I support my wife to follow her dream in cybersecurity or in technology? Me who has a child who is getting out of S6 and they want to go to campus, what advice can I give them if they want to follow development or if they want to do cybersecurity? So the role of the Cyber Cafe is to get all of us in tech a space that enables us to have a good laugh, to have a good conversation, to not be too serious, So I look forward to engaging with maybe some of you to talk about your stories, but also to create, we can have some physical sessions. We shall have some physical sessions. I already have a space at the American Center. They have given me space and they're saying, you guys can come whenever you feel like. So anytime you see us calling, please feel free to come and engage with other people in tech. It's not only cybersecurity, but it's all tech-related fields that we shall be engaging in, and we shall be discussing how people are making it, what challenges are they facing, how long has it taken for them to learn the things they have learned, how can they pass this on to their children, or a grandmother in the village who is getting their pension, how can they secure themselves? So majorly, the Cyber Cafe is a lounge. It's for all of us. Please subscribe and like. And you can also text me if there is a topic you'd like me to talk about or to look for someone to engage with in LinkedIn or here on YouTube. You can just tell me and I will be happy to do it. So majorly, that's the dream for me. And also to teach people that you can be a techie, but you can also have other passions. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
So basically from Humphrey's submission, I saw this was a perfect opportunity to really cut across something like this. Yeah. And we are grateful for everyone who has attended this session. And for a recording of this has been taken, and you can feel free to go. It will be uploaded later today on our YouTube channel, which is the Kampala Devops Community. We always feel like this is information that shouldn't be retained by only a few of us on the call. So we hope this information can reach as many people as possible. And that's why we at most times just upload it also to YouTube and also have it out there for anyone to watch. So in case you feel you need to share this piece of information with anyone, it's going to be available on YouTube. Yeah, and also I think if you saw this advert, you are able to see we have a community, which is a LinkedIn community for now. It's mainly for DevOps engineers, but it's more of DevOps cloud engineers, tech enthusiasts out there to come like minds, because as in tech, we don't work alone. We work with different people. We work with cybersecurity experts, we work with developers, we work with business teams, because at the end goal is delivering a good, great product. Yeah. I would say thanks again for honoring my invite, Famious. I know we had to really liaise time on when to hold the session, looking at the time like this where everyone is now in Christmas mode. People are thinking, okay, I need to travel, or I need to do this, I need to go do this. But I think people have spared time to come join us. I would say thank you again for honoring the invite. And thanks to everyone out there for sparing time. We thought it would be 1 hour and a half, but we are going in 2 hours. Yeah. But Famous, do you mind sharing any closing remarks?
No, I don't mind. Thank you so much, guys, for coming through. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And I hope that this has been insightful for all of you, both tech and non-techie people. And I hope to see you soon. I hope to hear from you. And let's keep good cyber hygiene. Let's keep learning and let's be teachable. And yeah, let's share whatever you know, share with someone else. You just never know, it will come back to you tenfold. All the best and have a Merry Christmas.
Yes. Merry Christmas, everyone. Once again, keep on tabs on LinkedIn. We are cooking more. The cyber cafe is also cooking more. Africa is talking. David from Africa is talking, who's someone I also work with here, is also cooking more. So these engagements will continue. Africa is talking. Probably they could also consider a hackathon around cybersecurity, and I know Famous, your expertise will be really, really vital. Yeah. But we appreciate you attending. Thanks, Famous, for the presentation. Yeah. And Merry Christmas, everyone. This is a wrap till 2025. Bye, everyone.